All right, in this video, I want to show you a little bit about objects. And in the code for this, where I showed you how to open a form in the text editor, and my code may look a little different than it did previously because I recreated this, but it should be pretty close. I tried to rename stuff pretty much the same, although um, I actually tried to be better about naming my components. For example, um, I named this BTN open for button open. That's how I normally name things. I use 2 or 3 letters to indicate what it is, like TB for text box, so this would be TB file name. RTB text is what I named these. All right, now previously I showed you how to create an instance of the open file dialog and set its filter. But let me show you something a little different that you can do instead. So if you look down here, you'll actually find under the dialogs menu that open file dialog is a choice here. And if I drag open file dialog and I drop it on the form, you'll see nothing change on the form, but you will see that open file dialog is added down here. And if I click on it, I can actually go to its properties, and I can give it a name like, I'm going to call it OFD2, so it doesn't get confused with the one I manually created. And there's a whole bunch of stuff in here, including filter. And if I go over here and I take this filter here, and I'm going to put it right here. And what I'm going to do now is I'm going to change my code to no longer create my instance of the OFD when I get an error here, because OFD no longer exists, because it existed there, but it no longer does. But OFD2 does. OFD2, the thing I created, exists there. Ignore this other code. And now if I run it, you'll see I'm going to get pretty much the same result as I did previously. I have my text editor, I hit open, it's going to open the old open file dialog. I don't know, I'm going to click on resources or something. Oops, it's in my way. I'm going to open it, and I get my text file. All right. So while you can manually instantiate something, you can also use the dialog dropped onto the form, and just be aware it sits down here. You don't see it up here, but all of those things that you can change about it in code, you can actually more easily check here. So I won't go in right now to what all these extra things do, but be aware of that. I want to show you one other thing. I want to show you what a rich text file is. So that's what I want to bring up. If I bring up Microsoft Word, and I create a new blank document, and I set its properties, well, I put in some text. I'm going to make this Old English, make it bigger. And now I'm going to save this. I'm going to save it in 2 formats. First thing I'm going to do, I'm going to save it on my desktop. I'm going to save it just as a plain old text file. I'm going to call that my plain text. and it asks me, it tells me that I'm going to lose all my special formatting. And yeah, so I'm going to go ahead and save that. I'm going to save it again. This time I'm going to save it as a rich text file. Save that as my RTF. Okay, and you notice I didn't get any messages about losing any formatting because while Word can make some really complex formatting that a rich text document can't store, what a rich text document is, it's a text document with some special encoding that will allow you to encode some fonts, some sizes, some colors, and some basic stuff like that. I'm going to go ahead and close that. Now, if I were to run my program right now, oops, that's not my program. It's just taking a second to load. It always loads on the other thing. I'm going to go ahead and say open, and on my desktop I've got my plain text that, and you'll notice right here it says open file dialog 1. That's because I have that set as the default file name, which I can remove later. So I'm going to say, and also you'll notice there's little quotation marks because I forgot to take those off. That's just a little cleanup thing. But so if I go ahead and open my text file, you'll see I get the word, but I don't get the look of the word. Now, we're going to close this. We're going to go back to our control here. And I'm going to change, first of all, I don't like that it starts that. I'm just going to have it have no default file name. I'm going to get rid of the extra quotation marks that didn't need to be there. And I'm going to add RTF files, extra stat RTF, boom, another pipe, asterisk.rtf. Okay, so let's go ahead and run this. I've added that extra filter in there. Go ahead and say open, and this time I'm going to choose an RTF file. I got my RTF. I'm going to go ahead and open that. Ooh, boy, that is a mess. Okay, and this is because I told it to just read the file, and so what it did was it read the raw file, which you'll notice is a lot more than that one word. It's got information about fonts, it's got information about what word there is, and it's got a whole bunch of other information. And in the next video I'm going to show you how you can actually open an RTF file as RTF, so it will actually maintain that formatting that we saw before.